sales and marketing guy. Okay, I'm Doug Felder, and I'm from F2ware. We're here to present F2ID, which is a mutual authentication software program that we've developed and will soon be marketing. I believe the product is pertinent to Dr. Levine's class because it involves network security. By the way, congratulations on your great press in Newsweek. That's what got us here. The agenda will be, as it reads, we're going to give you a little bit of information about F2ware, a little bit about the problem as we see it, some of the current authentication offerings in the market today, and then we'll go through the F2ware solution, and this will include diagrams and some screenshots of, let's say it's a bank, electronic banking website. And then we'll talk about what makes F2ware solution different and a quick run through of the benefits. The company was founded very, very recently, 2008, although the employees probably have over 100 years experience in security software development and marketing. We have an office, a development office in San Jose and a satellite office in Taiwan where we have development engineers as well. Now, this is a software program or application that's developed for business to consumer and business to business market. But we're going to talk today about business to consumer, a good example being electronic banking. We go beyond the username, password, security. We use a challenge response protocol to give you a two-factor mutual authentication in software. There are 2 online patents filed with a 3rd in process right now. We're kind of in stealth mode, so you're not going to find a lot of information about us on the website. It's easy to use and implement with a low total cost of ownership. You may ask, how low a cost of ownership? Well, the application was developed for use with a very large database, or a very large user base, I should say. And at the high end, the cost is 20 cents per user per year. It's not often that you hear people talk about software applications in the cents. It's generally the dollars. Now, what's the problem that we're addressing? A while back, I read an article that said that the second most talked about, or the second problem that people have, the most trouble they have with their PCs is with security issues. And being in the class that you're in, you obviously know an awful lot about security. We're talking about cybercrime, internet fraud, identity and bank account thefts. That's the problem that we address. Now, I'm not speaking from experience here. I am not skilled enough with the computer to be able to easily impersonate a user, but I'd be willing to wager that there's people here today that it would be relatively easy for them to impersonate a user. And there are ways that cyber criminals can do this. It's easy to impersonate a website. It's easy to intercept web traffic. And it's easy to redirect website traffic. And it's easy to intercept web session identifier. Not easy for the general computer user, but people that are into cybercrime have honed their skills and know how to do this. Now, I'm sure that everybody knows what a Trojan horse is. That's where you're lured into a website or you're lured into downloading something, a free screensaver, and all of a sudden somebody's into your computer. Phishing and farming are fraud. Are you people familiar with these names? Everybody's going, yeah, we do this all the time. Now, the one that I thought was kind of funny was the session fixation. That sounds like some psychological dysfunction to me. We had a bad case of session fixation. But all of these terms relate to ways for criminals to get in and steal identity and essentially get after your money. Some of the existing solutions today have some significant flaws. Choose a personal image. How many times does your bank show you the puma, the dog, the cat, the spinner, and you say, yeah, that's obviously the right place to be, and you click and you put in your password and you're into electronic banking. Now, I've often thought that I never got a lot of confidence out of that. I never realized the fact that was a real secure situation for me. And I thought, it seemed to be awful easy to replicate an image. The one-time password, RSA, VeriSign, and Vasco are well known for that, generally takes a hardware token or a smart card. It's expensive to deploy. Banks aren't really into that as much because of the fact of the cost and the management, although Bank of America recently sent me a message saying that I could get a smart card that would give me a one-time password each time I wanted to get into my electronic banking, and they were going to charge me $20 for it. Well, I've already got a pocket full of cards. I don't need another card. Challenge questions. I just get frustrated. Let me into the site. I can't remember what my kindergarten teacher's name was. I just want in. So all of these have some drawbacks. We believe that our solution is superior, naturally. What do we actually provide? Well, it's a low cost, as I said, higher ranges. You're talking about 20 cents a user. Secure software-only solution for two-factor authentication and data integrity. It's easily adopted by business-to-business and B2C markets, preventing problems of fraud and unauthorized network access. No tokens, no cards required. And what makes this really beneficial? There's no software for the user to download. So there's minimal interference with you, the client. No flash needs to be installed on the client's browser. It's seamless to the client user after enrollment. And we'll go through enrollment here. But once you're enrolled on that computer, you don't need to go through enrollment again, and everything's behind the scenes. The user is unaware of the extra added security that he has or she has. We address two issues: mutual authentication and critical data verification. Let me catch up with my notes here. So under two-factor mutual authentication, essentially what we do is we authenticate that the bank is the bank, the client is the client, and the two are talking to one another, and there's no misdirection. The second, critical data verification, is the sensitive data that's going to be sent secure? Or is somebody on the line ready to poach that information or copy it in some way? The first time F2ware solution user logs in, this is we're going to describe the enrollment process. The person logs in, as he generally does, to his electronic banking site. And then the application takes over and walks him through a series of steps in order to become enrolled. And I'll show you that in just a short period of time. Subsequent logins are seamless to the user. He's already enrolled. The critical data verification is a secured session after the login, after the mutual authentication has taken place. And it's for the transmission of extremely critical or sensitive data, and the bank generally decides what data that is. The bank or the business. So as I said before, you log in as always. Simple procedure, the client contacts the bank app. The bank app contacts the F2ID server. Then sends a screen back to the client. Now, these are customizable screens. It says here, protecting your privacy is F2ware's main priority. Obviously, if that was your bank, the bank's name would be in there. And as I said, these are customizable screenshots, so it will look like your standard bank format. It says, we're unable to locate an active security profile in your browser. Now remember, the client is already logged in via his ID and his password, so there is some security there. We're talking about an extra layer of security. It says, would you like to register for additional online access protection? If the user says, please remind me later, he just goes on with his regular banking. If he says, yes, I would like to be one of your additionally secure users, a scenario menu comes up. And he or she takes whichever scenario best fits the situation. I'm at my primary PC at which I do the majority of my banking. Or, don't register at this time, this looks too complex. Now remember, this is enrollment. This is a one-time shot. The web app from the bank calls the F2ID server to create the activation code. You're all computer literate. You know how fast this can take place. An activation code is generated, and the activation code is then sent to the client via an email message. Now, if the client doesn't elect to plug in the activation code at this point in time, then depending upon what parameters the bank wants to put on this, it can expire in 20 minutes, it can expire in 5 minutes, it can expire in a day. But generally speaking, the bank's probably going to say 30 minutes. And this is a sample of the email that's sent out to dear Mr. Ramanza, our imaginary user. Thank you for registering. Please log into your account. Use the following activation code. And Mr. Ramanza activates this additional security. And this is, as I said, enrollment. The shared secrets are traded. and the mutual authentication is complete. And he's enrolled. Mutual authentication complete. Enrolled. One time. Seamless to the user after that. Other than the fact the user is going to have to plug in his user ID and his password like he always does. Now this is a logical view when the client is speaking back to the web server. He doesn't go directly to the F2ID server. I'm just showing you a logical way of travel here. Every communication goes back through the bank web server, who then contacts the F2ID server. The client sends a challenge response. The F2ID server sends a challenge to the F2ID client, once again going up through the web server and to the client. Mutual authentication is completed. The secure channel is established, and the client can begin to do his banking safely with the bank of his choice. Now, critical data verification. This is, Ernesto, are we sending encrypted data back and forth under this?
We are.
Okay. So, if I go back one, in this mutual authentication and the banking exercise that's going on, the client has a menu. I want to withdraw, I want to pay a bill, I want to transfer money, whatever. He picks whatever access he wants, whatever task he wants completed, and then the bank says, you know, that's really critical. And what we're going to do is we're going to utilize the critical data verification asset that we get with this application. So the application server notifies the S2ID server that the user is ready to transmit confidential data. And then the bank, through its program, goes ahead and makes certain that this data that is critical or sensitive is going to be encrypted. So the F2ID server confirms the login session is secured, and there's a secure channel where this sensitive data is encrypted. Now, the F2ID server and the bank's web app will monitor this channel periodically, and before the critical data is sent, it'll determine whether or not they're still talking to one another and nobody else is on that communication link. Nobody has breached that security. So they go back in and they will check this channel to make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. The bank's still talking to the client's who it's supposed to be, and the bank's who it's supposed to be. And when that is approved technologically, then the data is transmitted. Now, what makes F2Ware's solution different? Well, we make roaming secure. You can take this application with you. You don't need to take it with you. Let me rephrase that. Let's say you go to a public computer and you want to do some banking. The bank app will allow you to utilize that public computer safely. Now, you have to enroll that computer before you can utilize it. But you enroll that computer through the enrollment process that we just went through. You complete your banking transaction on a public computer, and then the application erases everything that was on that computer once the session's over. So you can feel safe roaming with your own computer or utilizing someone else's computer. Once again, the solution is very easy to use. And what makes this, I think, very attractive to, let's utilize the bank example again, is that for a very large volume of users, the bank doesn't want to interfere with that user's experience. The bank really doesn't want to have to sell tokens or cards to the users. The bank wants a very easily utilized, secure application for the user in order for the user to adopt it. The bank wants to protect its exposure. Let's face it. In electronic banking, the credo is, I want to protect my money, and the bank wants to protect their exposure. So it's beneficial for both the user and the bank if a software security application like this is utilized. So the easier it is for the client to accept it and for the bank to manage it, the better it is. And obviously, we wouldn't be developing this product if we didn't preserve the customer's data integrity. We want to make sure that you are talking to who you want to be talking to, and at the other end, that company wants to make sure that they're talking to a valid client. And nobody else is listing or taking data. So let's just summarize. Easy to deploy, scalable in the thousands, tens of thousands as far as users are concerned. No hardware for the user. Multiple browsers. What do we have? Internet Explorer, Safari, and Firefox, right. Multiple platforms. Any platform that runs any of those browsers that I just mentioned, we're compatible with. No device to carry. No annoying site keys or questions like, who's my kindergarten teacher? No change to the user's experience. And it protects against all of the major threats that we previously talked about. Man in the middle, that one intrigues me a little bit. Here's somebody that's communicating to two people independently, letting them think that they're talking to one another when in actuality this person is controlling the conversation, doing whatever he wants to do with it. Are there any men or women in the middle here? No? Okay. That's it. We really appreciate your time and courtesy. And Ernesto, Helen, myself would be happy to try to answer any of your questions.